Hey there, my friends, Hank here, and today we're going to be breathing some new life into an old scale model aircraft build. Now, if you've been following the channel for some time, you'll probably know that I'm a big proponent of revisiting old kits. It's a great way to save some money, practice your skills, and bring a project up to par with your current standard of finish. Now, I usually tackle refurbs on armor kits, but sometimes it can be a nice challenge to tackle an old aircraft build. So today, we're going to try and spruce up this old Fw-190 I built many years ago with an all-new camo scheme, decals, weathering, the whole 9 yards. So let's dive into it, shall we? Now, there was nothing per se wrong with this build. It's Tamiya's classic Fw-190A-8 R2, but there was some significant silvering on the national marking decals, some pretty heavy-handed sponge chipping that I'd done, and the camo color selection just isn't really the most representative of what these big beefy Sturmböcke interceptors would have been done up as with JG3 and JG300. So, let's take a deep breath and let's reprime this old bird. Worth noting here, the bubble canopy has been removed and masked off for separate painting, and the windscreen and cockpit, as you can see, have been masked off as well. Alright, well, we're well past the point of no return now. To start this next chapter of our 190's life, let's flip her over and spray the entire belly of the aircraft with some RLM 76. Now, if you haven't had a chance to check out my complete Luftwaffe fighter camo guide video and you're at all interested in painting up these old German warbirds, I highly recommend checking it out. I'll link to it right here. It's a great practice to brush up on the timeline of camo colors used by the Luftwaffe day fighter units to ensure that you're making the right color selections on your next model project. Now, we could take the time to paint the interior of the wheel wells to the correct interior color here, but as a refurb project, I know that this is a kit I'm never going to compete in a show, so for me, the RLM 76 for the interior wells is fine. While we have our RLM 76 loaded up on our brush, we're also going to paint up the sides of our fuselage about 90% of the way up. We're going to be replicating one of the A8s assigned to 4th Gruppe of JG3 Udet. More on that in a bit, but in any case, these birds had pretty high blue bellies with a darker spine, so that's what we're prepping for here. Okay, next, let's load up some RLM 75 Grau Violet and get to work on the upper surfaces of our wings here. Now, if you're thinking, whoa, that looks super purple, what's going on here? Fear not, RLM 75 was one of the standard Luftwaffe camo colors during this mid-war period and usually made up the bulk of the upper surfaces of day fighter aircraft. While the ammo paint here is a rather saturated variant, sure, this is the correct color. Interesting, no? While we have our RLM 75 loaded, we want to start modeling in a nice dark spine here along the top of the aircraft. Go slow, take your time, and try to keep a nice soft edge where the RLM 75 and 76 meet. With our RLM 75 applied, we can now load up our brush with a bit of our final camo color, RLM 74. RLM 74 makes up the final piece of our lovely RLM 74, 75, 76 pie that was the standard palette for Luftwaffe day fighter units around this mid-war period, 1942, 1943, and even stretching a bit into 1944. We're going to first spray in some soft-edged models on our wings and horizontal stabilizers to break up some of our overall RLM 75. With our horizontal surfaces complete, let's roll the aircraft over a bit and start speckling in some very soft, small little camo spots on both our RLM 75 spine and our RLM 76 belly. Alright, with that main camo work complete, let's start adding some of our special tactical markings. To begin here, I'm going to mask off our nose cowling and a small stripe just before our vertical stabilizer that will constitute our Reich defense band. The jagdgeshwader units tasked with defense of German airspace were each assigned a special color-coded fuselage band in the later years of the war to aid in quick aerial identification, and the JG3 band was just pure white, which is easy enough for us. Now, where this scheme gets particularly interesting is with the nose. These Sturmböcke units with JG3 featured this unique, special, black lightning strike style splash on the sides of the fuselage, so to start to prep for that, we've got to block in the whole nose cowling with some flat black first. Most kits depicting this unit, including this Tamiya kit, do feature this element as a decal, but I decided I wanted to take a shot at painting it up for myself, so let's give this a go. I freehand masked this off, doing my best to match the angles as depicted in the limited reference material available, as well as the decals themselves, and then I began to spray in the main area of the shape with some of our flat black. Once that dried, I went back and masked off a tiny little strip along the top of the shape to spray in with some zinc chromate yellow. Now, based on the reference imagery I could find, it appears that these little lightning flashes were outlined by color-coordinated lines according to Stoffel. So for this particular aircraft, belonging to 12th Stoffel, 4th Gruppa of JG3, I had to paint this outline in yellow. If you'd like to learn more about individual Stoffel and Gruppa markings, I'll link to my full discussion on the subject right here. Once that bolt was fully outlined, it was finally time to remove the masks and see how we did. Whew, that, my friends, I will take. Looking pretty sharp. I love it. With our final airbrush work completed and any small brushwork added afterwards, we're now free to spray a gloss coat of varnish all over the whole kit and move on to decaling. Always, always, always hold on to your unused decals. You never know when you're going to need them. I fortunately still had the unused decals from my original finish of this kit, so this time around I was able to leverage the markings I needed for this particular scheme from the Tamiya pack itself. So let's break out our trusty snow white water dish and get to it. Using our usual process of microset, decal application, and microsol to achieve a solid application, we can proceed to get all of our markings on the aircraft to depict this vehicle of 12th Stoffel JG3. Once all of our decals have been applied and we're ready to move on to weathering, let's apply another gloss coat of varnish and let that cure completely. Alright, we're going to do a very simple weathering approach to this model using some Flory clay-based dark dirt wash. This is a simple sludge wash. We're going to brush this all over our aircraft, we're going to let it dry completely, and then we're going to wipe away the excess with a dampened paper towel. This will leave a little bit of the product in the recesses of the sculpt and help accentuate all of the panel lines on our 190 here. Once our Flory wash is dried completely, all that's left to do is spray the entire kit with a coat of matte varnish, remove our cockpit masks, and reinstall our canopy and prop. And with that, we've got ourselves a completely refurbished Fw-190A-8 R2. What was once an old build sitting at the back of my display case is now an exciting new Sturmböcke to add to my Luftwaffe wing of the old Sprues and Brews Museum. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and it can inspire you to take on some of your own refurb projects. Thanks for watching, my friends, and until next time, be well, happy building, cheers.